Just in case you didn't hear it in the news, it's been claimed that the first-time buyer scheme announced in Tuesday's budget has driven house prices up by as much as €45,000 overnight. On Tuesday, Finance Minister Michael Noonan announced a plan which will see first-time buyers of new homes receive a tax rebate of 5% on the cost of a brand new home, up to a maximum of $400,000. Now, according to the journal.ie, at lunchtime on budget day, developer Kingscroft had properties in Thorndale and Delgany on sale for $395,000. This is for a 3-bedroom semi, and $575,000 for a 5-bedroom detached home. These prices have since jumped up to $427,500. That's from the $395, and up to $620. From the $575 for the 5-bedroom. The company has denied the increase had anything to do with the budget announcement. They say this is the normal practice when there is demand. However, Darragh Murphy, journalist with the journal.ie, who broke the story, told East Coast News that this is a clear example of why many people are sceptical about the new Help to Buy scheme.
We heard from a couple of our readers that house prices jumped in a couple of developments around the country overnight. We were speaking to the developer. They referred us on to Sherry Fitzgerald, and basically they didn't deny that the prices were rising. They were saying it was for reasons other than the budget, but it appears that people's fears over the effect of the budget measure, that it might not help first-time buyers but it might actually help developers, proven founded at this stage.
Well, the junior spokesperson on housing for Fianna Fáil is Pat Casey, TD from this constituency. Pat Casey, good morning.
Good morning, Declan. How are you this morning?
Good morning. So what do you think of this story that's coming out of Delgany?
Well, out of Delgany, first of all, we can categorically say that it is directly related to the first-time buyers grant that has been proposed. But we have raised serious concerns in exactly the same manner, that we have a fear that this is going to do nothing else, only drive the prices of houses up. And it might even put them even further out of reach of the first-time buyers who they were targeted at. And we equally want to be careful that, that the supply, that we monitor this and make sure that the supply is matched with the increase in supply, because we don't want to encourage people again to commit themselves to over mortgages. And as I said in the Dáil with Minister Coveney there the other night, we should have learned a lesson from our past experiences. And this is another example that could do nothing else, only drive house prices up.
Okay, so in principle, what do you think of the idea?
If it wasn't targeted, we have to look at the reason. And the Minister said in the Dáil when I was there the other night, he says that the reason for this scheme is that the first-time homes are not being built by developers because they cannot make their margin. So what he's sort of indicating is we'll pump the prices up by 20,000, therefore giving the developer his margin to entice him into the first-time buyer's home market. But what really should be targeted is the cost of the building. And the state are in control of a number of aspects of that. One is the development contribution scheme in each local authority. 2 is the VAT. And then we have the compliance and the regulatory factors that was brought in under building control regulation. There's 4 aspects there that could be targeted. They could reduce the cost of houses directly, and that would affect the developer, but not
yeah, but it would affect the country then as well. Wouldn't you if you say turn down some of the demands that are made on builders to build proper houses, because we had an awful lot of crap built during the Celtic Tiger years, and then the VAT would be a loss to taking money in to spend on homelessness and the health service, etc.
In relation to the first one, of the compliance issues and the new building control regulation, that actually could have been done in a different way than the way it's done at the moment, and probably be done more cost effectively by tying it into the planning permission and leaving it into the control of the local authority to do it, instead of the developer engaging his own professional service to sign off on his own work, which is always a question down the road when a claim comes in. Equally, in relation to the VAT, and a quick analysis of the VAT, and you would know my own industry benefited from this a number of years ago, and it has proved to be successful. The industry was in trouble, was struggling. And the VAT does 2 things. One, it helps to increase the margin for the developer, but equally helps to reduce the price for the purchaser of the house. And the loss of revenue, we sold, I think it was 7,500 new properties last year, the loss in VAT would probably be about 288 million. All we would have to build is an additional 3,500 houses to make up that loss. And the Minister, as a minimum, is hoping to deliver 10,500 houses next year. So it's a double gain there.
And what's the other pressures in the market? What about hoarding land? And what about even the council in Wicklow, as you know, has land in their possession? Is there any way to move that along?
Yeah, no, the site valuation tax, which is coming down the road, will indeed try to address it. But the way it's been structured at the moment, I would have concerns about, because there's too many out clauses in it. And I think we'd let too many developers off the hook with it. And we need to tighten it down if we are going to introduce a site vacancy tax.
Right. And the housing, the local authority, would they be subject to the same rules?
No, the local authority wouldn't be subject to the same rules. No.
Right. So what do you think should be done with the land they have?
The problem with the local authority is that the government is not giving the funding to the local authorities to build houses. That's the problem. The problem is supply of houses. The problem is we need to build more local authority houses. And local authority houses can't build them out of their own resources. They can only build them out of central funds.
Yeah, but so here we are. But you're acknowledging that there be a lack of supply. You're acknowledging that in the building industry, that if they can't make their margins, they won't be building either. But the central problem is the lack of supply.
Yeah. And so we need to target what is the issue. The construction industry has identified the unit cost of building the house needs to be addressed. Now, by increasing the selling price of it by 20,000 and giving the developer that 20,000, we believe is the wrong move, because it affects the purchaser. Whereas if you specifically target the costs involved in building a house, like VAT, like development contribution schemes, like compliance and the building regulations, that can, in parts of Dunleary, rat down. In the development contribution schemes for one house to the local authority in Dunleary is in excess of €70,000 for one house, just to the development contribution schemes. Never mind VAT, never mind compliance or any other tax.
Okay, but let's follow that money. Where does it go? What is it used for?
That money in relation to that comes into the development contribution scheme in each local authority, which is decided by the local members. In Wicklow, we did 2 reviews of our development contribution scheme, and I spearheaded both of them. And what we did when we analysed the capital programs that we had, or capital projects that we had in the scheme, we took the ones that we honestly put our hands on heart and said will never happen in our lifetime. And we had costed millions in against them. And we were able to bring our development contribution scheme down in Wicklow from in the region of about 18,000 to 7,500.
Yeah, but the local authorities are not flush with money as a result of all this. They find a place to spend the money.
Yeah, no, but the development contribution is one specific aspect of the local authority. It's a reserve function. It's specifically designed for capital infrastructure. So it doesn't really directly relate.
Right, and what you're saying is that if you reduce it, it means that the houses have to become cheaper. The market dictates the price, though, Pat. And
the market does dictate the price.
But
you won't.
If somebody is not giving the money to the development fees, but they still think because there's a queue halfway down the road of people with money, they won't actually take into consideration we're not paying the development fees. They'll say, "Isn't it great? There's a big queue, and we'll charge them what we were charging them before."
No. We need to get the construction industry up and running in the first-time buyers market. At the moment, they are active in the 400,000 plus market, where they are making their margin. So the problem is they're not making their margin in the first-time buyers grant. So we need to create a margin in there for them, and by addressing direct costs that they have to bear, like the development contribution schemes, like in Wicklow, as I say. For a 120,000 square metre house, now it's 7,500 cheaper for the builder to build that house than it was a number of years ago. Whereas in Dunleary, he has to pay 75,000. And that's a direct cost on the construction industry or on the builder who's building that house.
All right, well, it's not as straightforward as we all think.
It is not as straightforward. There's many aspects of it, but we have severe concerns about this. And equally the fact that it's only targeted at new homes And the Minister has identified 200,000 vacant properties out there. And why hasn't he applied it to that? Why hasn't he applied it to people who are coming home, who had to leave the country for employment, want to return home? They won't qualify it either. And if you're able to afford, you don't have to get an 80% mortgage and can afford to only get a 70% mortgage, you're actually ruled out of it.
Okay. All right, we'll keep in touch, Pat. Thank you very much indeed for talking about your particular area of spokesmanship with Fianna Fáil. Pat Casey is junior spokesperson on housing with Fianna Fáil, and you can find out how he gets on in the Dáil on that issue and indeed other issues. He is TD for this constituency. Pat Casey there. Okay. Our number is 087 77 11 103 or 0818 303 103 is the direct line for your comments and all this. How are you ever going to get out of this? Gosh, we've got the teachers as well, and we got the guards, and we've got everybody. Will the train drivers be next? We'll see. Anyway, come